This book passed through several editions in the author's life and is still in request, though by no means to the extent that its unrivaled excellencies deserve. It is the best human directory in existence for the man who would understand how the law of sin, which is in his members, is wrought upon by satanic power, and how, through the concurring grace of the Holy Spirit, that power may be held in check. Within a year or two, the second part of the Pilgrim's Progress was published, in which Christian's wife and children, along with their neighbor Mercy, are seen going after him to heaven. Other companions, with names most profoundly significant of character, join them on their journey, and under the dauntless guardianship of Great Heart, they ultimately reach their destination. It is glorious to see how the open region was filled with horses and chariots and trumpeters to welcome the pilgrims as they went up and followed one another into the beautiful city. The versatility of Bunyan's power is manifest in the entire tone of this second part in comparison with the first. The progress of the Christian man was, for the most part, a terrible struggle to obtain a victory. The progress of the Christian woman was, to a large degree, a pleasant journey towards a home. Christiana's boys were left behind as a blessing to the church militant, the dreamer intimating that he might have something to say of them at a future time. His intimation was apparently fulfilled as far as writing a third part was concerned, for some years after his death, his publisher Nathaniel Ponder announced that the manuscript had been entrusted to him and that it would be issued before long. Nothing more was heard of Ponder's publication. There came indeed what purported to be a third part, but it was a forgery. The internal and circumstantial evidence proved that it had no sort of kinship with the two veritable dreams. Other books followed, until about 60 volumes, several of them large writings, constituted Bunyan's works. Many of them were admonitions, but all had reference to the fundamental truths of the Christian faith. In several instances, they were the enlargements of his sermons, for he had the strong impression that they were likely to awaken ungodly readers from their deadness and to induce some deeper spirituality among the saints. He desired to serve not only his own generation, but the generations which were to come. It was indeed a painful task to go on mastering the objections of the scorner in order to refute them, but he performed the task. It was arduous work to solve the various difficulties of undisciplined and hypocritical minds, but he did the work. It was a weighty responsibility to warn the Church of God throughout the land against the manifold temptations which were abounding to deny or adulterate the faith. But he discharged the responsibility and accomplished under God as much good from the press as from the pulpit, indoctrinating thousands of his countrymen whom he had never seen, with his own comprehensive knowledge and intense admiration of the gospel of the grace of God. By the simpler works, such as his book for boys and girls, as well as by the deeper works, as his law and grace unfolded, the people were generally attracted, gratefully retained, and conclusively persuaded. In all 60 of his books, it could safely be said that his object was apparent, his language intelligible, his reasoning lucid, his illustrations proper, his sincerity undeniable, his design benevolent, his tone that of Boanerges or of Barnabas, either the indignant or the pathetic, the alarming or the consolatory, whichever seemed the likeliest to bring his readers into the earlier or the more mature fellowship of the faith of Christ. An instance may be given of his power in expostulating with the slothful. Sluggard, are you asleep still? Are you resolved to sleep the sleep of death? Will neither tidings from heaven or hell awake you? Will you say, still a little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to rest? Proverbs chapter 6, verse 10, Proverbs chapter 24, verse 33. Oh, that I was skillful in lamentation, and had but a yearning heart toward you. How I would pity you, how I would bemoan you. Poor soul, lost soul, dying soul. What a hard heart have I, that I cannot mourn for you. If you should lose but a limb, or a child, or a friend, it would not be much, but poor man, it is your soul. If it was to be in hell for a day, but for a year, nay, for 10,000 years, it would be nothing in comparison, but it is forever. Oh, this cutting ever! What a soul-amazing word will that be which says, depart from me, accursed ones, into the eternal fire which has been prepared for the devil and his angels. Matthew chapter 25, verse 41. In his dealing with the despondent, he thus conveyed his wisdom. Nothing has been more common to many than to doubt the grace of God, a thing most unbecoming a sinner of anything in the world. To break the law is a fact foul enough, but to question the sufficiency of the grace of God to save from that condition is worse than sin, if worse can be. Wherefore, despairing soul, for it is to you I speak, hold back from your mistrusts, cast off your slavish fears, hang your misgivings upon the hedge, and believe that you have an invitation sufficient for the matter, for a river is before your face. And as for your want of goodness and works, let that by no means dishearten you. This is a river of the water of life, streams of grace and mercy. And when you see how those who are reluctant to die make provision at Tunbridge, Epsom, and Bath, and other places that they may have their dwellings by the waters which are there, then you will greatly desire to be always near this blessed water of life, for you have nothing to do. I speak to the healing of your soul from its doubts and fears, but to drink and live forever.